the Indian Institute of Science Education and Research. It's a very proud day for this institution. This is probably one of the 7th IISERs that has been established in this country for promoting Indian Institute of Sciences like education environment, for building the culture of learning and growing to be interested in sciences. When we speak of science, India has its contribution. And I was just in passing inquiring with the Vice Chancellor if students are from different parts of the country and which is this one or two part which has greater representation. He told me there are more students, probably disproportionately more students from Kerala and Bengal. No doubt, Kerala, very happy to have you here, and West Bengal. But I'm trying to link to something which is very distinct about this country. You've had scholars moving from different parts of the country, even in ancient times, to spread knowledge, to attract students, to challenge people who would question the knowledge, the depth of their knowledge. And you had, all of us do know and do recognize that from Adi Shankara's time, Kerala's Adi Shankara, students from Kerala have moved all over the country, and we probably have a few more Adi Shankaras coming out of students here. For the depth of knowledge, I don't think anything need to be read beyond that. The scholarship, the knowledge, the quest for inquiry are all so typical. And you had scholars moving from Benares to south. Krishnadevaraya's court had a lot of people moving from there to Benares to seek knowledge. So this movement of scholars across the country is something which is part of our Indian tradition. We've always encouraged, and that is why you have great universities in the north, great universities in the south, and universities mark the names of the cities. So it's not just Nalanda. Kanchi was known also as a very depth place for seeking knowledge, and scholars coming from abroad, inclusive of that time a lot more open society. You had Chinese scholars coming to India, learning from different institutions, recording the achievements of Indian scientists and thinkers. So I'm glad to see that not only that IISER is promoting good education, good scholarship, and also teaching learning experience in this institution seems to really being very motivating for the students. And as I entered this building, I was inquiring with your Vice Chancellor about the recently announced NIFR ranking. And I'm glad to say that on the general ranking, Bhopal has been standing out, but there's miles to go. You are going to have to compete with Indian Institute of Sciences and many others who are before you, both in the overall ranking and also in the research side of things. As it is, I was glad to see that you have more than 3,400 papers that you've published. And that is the way it goes unless you're internationally acclaimed because of the papers that you publish. And it is also important that they get published in science-indexed journals. So I would encourage that this institution give emphasis for that. You have great open access library and also digitally endowed library. So with that, I think this institution can even make faster strides towards being one of the top science education and research centers. I understand so far there have been 1,964 students who graduated or who have been awarded degrees from here. I was surprised to see that you have had 8 patents registered and 9 patents awarded, which is a very great start for students and for the teaching faculty who are here. And that is where I think the quest for translating academic knowledge which can emanate from science labs, computer labs, will have a potential for getting commercialized, potential for getting scaled up, and it is only when they are scaled up and only sometimes when they are commercially successful will the society at large benefit from the knowledge that you have acquired. So it is important for academia that you do well and progress in science. But for the society to get benefit out of it, it is important for you to seek patent and enable your patented formulation to be able to be commercially translated and brought to the use of the society. So it is important that we encourage science for science's sake as much as science for society's sake as well. And I'm sure the faculty and the mentors in this university will enable that kind of a culture here. But today's ceremony, because I was seeing Dr. Mohan Yadav, who's himself a very academically inclined person, also observing the students coming in rows and getting their degrees and going. This 11th Convocation, I understand, has 79 Bachelor of Science, 214 Bachelor of Science and Master of Science, which is the twin degree, 28 Master of Science, MSc or MS, and 121 PhD being awarded today. It's, I think, for 11th Convocation, a significant number. I congratulate IISER Bhopal for having reached this. New technologies. I understand also you have a set of students who've got their degrees for data sciences as well. Today, particularly the way in which the world looks at India is for the capacities that we have in making data become the new oil, as they say. That is what is going to generate a lot of policy making, a lot of commercial transactions happen, and also a lot of business prospects based on the way in which data is going to be analyzed. Tools are going to be derived for it, for studying data, and also for generating a lot more application-based inventions that you can come up with. Therefore, that one element which I heard for data sciences, as well as the others, because together put, science is not going to be in compartments anymore. I don't think it was ever. But to make it as a point to tell you today, multidisciplinary and looking at one another's overlaps is where science is going to have immediate benefit for the mankind. I don't need to elaborate in a hall full of students who have got their degrees for sciences to say how it is important to have multidisciplinary sciences benefit mankind. But today's need for India is in the advanced chemistry. And that is where India has to show leadership. And I expect IISER Bhopal to be able to recognize the need for advanced chemistry and advanced chemistry related innovations to help India move ahead in storage of energy coming from the renewable sources. A lot of activities going on. Government has invested heavily. We are leaders as much as possible in implementing the commitments given in the various climate-related conferences, particularly the COP21, 27, and subsequently the COPs which were held both in UAE and also in Scotland. India made a lot of commitments moving towards renewable energy. But the challenge in that is, of course, we have put our own money. The world promised a lot of money towards transitioning from fossil fuel to renewable energy. But that money is yet to come. But India didn't wait. the promises given in Paris have all been fulfilled with our own monies. There are times when, being the finance minister, it doesn't give me motivation when I have to answer people about why are our taxes like this? Why can't we even be lower than this? I wish I can bring it down to almost nil. But India's challenges are severe, and the challenges will have to be overcome. I seek very learned crowd before me, graduates, PhD holders, to understand India's challenges. I have taken the example of the renewable energy as one of those sustainable sources for energy for a growing country like India. And fossil fuel we'll have to move out of. But do we know how to transition from it? Except for saying, yes, we'll invest on solar, we'll invest in wind, we'll also have, and I'm grateful that Baba Atomic Research Center has come up with modular plans for setting up smaller nuclear energy centers for production of nuclear energy. So there are so many different activities which are happening in which India is investing heavily. India is moving from fossil fuel to renewable energy on its own strength. If we cannot afford to wait for money which will come from somewhere else, so we need to have to spend to have that strength. But what is going to make it easier? When scientists like you, when people who have obtained great degrees from such institutions like here are able to come up with innovations which can help this country move towards greater reliance on renewable energy. For instance, like a layman, I would like to say here before good learned science graduates, you know when you produce power from thermal sources, you have ways in which you can generate it 24/7, so you have power even in the night or even the day when there is no sun shining. But when you depend on solar, which is good to move to solar, I'm not saying no about it, but when you move to solar, you generate as much when it is a bright sunny day, but if it is cloudy, probably lesser. But even on a bright sunny day, when you generate enough power from solar energy, it is only up to the time when the sun is up and giving you light. But after that, you are not able to produce naturally, and then you'll have to certainly look if you could have stored that energy which you generated during the bright daylight. We still don't have the capacity for it. We probably still are looking for even better materials for it, rare earths for it, and therefore the science graduates that all of you all are, the PhDs that you are all, I appeal to you for the sake of our country, do make sure that you're able to spend more time with your mentors, with your guides, with your supervisors, to see if you're able to give India the advantage, the lead advantage, in being able to give us batteries which can store, batteries of scale which can store to that extent renewable energy. And there are parts of this world where countries have decided that maybe till such a time that we get that lead in advanced chemistry and for battery storage, we'll still depend on fossil fuel, coal for instance, which is like going forward but yet coming back and saying we'll still have to have that base load which you need for energy transmission. That has to still come from coal or from fossil fuels like crude oil and so on. So that transition from fossil fuel to renewable energy, if it has to be sustainable and if it has to be 24/7, we need your skills. We need that knowledge that you have got from this esteemed institution to make sure that India has the lead advantage, not because we are in an international race, but because we have a population which is aspiring to grow at a greater speed and reach a level which they have seen in countries abroad and whose parents here have toiled to bring them to that level, but can they themselves provide that kind of a living for the forthcoming generations? So I would appeal to you, for people who have got wonderful degrees from a great institution like this, do apply your mind even as you take up a job. I can understand the necessity of immediately wanting to get yourself employed. But science doesn't have time, work hours. You can work at your office, but also make sure that your mind actively engages in coming up with innovative ways in which India's progress towards a Vikasit Bharat, that is 2047, can be enabled by the kind of very quick and speedy solutions that you may offer for us to move and transition into a better country. So I do not want to elaborate on the steps that all of us have taken, more institutions, more seats, more medical colleges. I'm not going into that. But I will highlight to you so that you have the confidence. The government is not just talking. It's putting money into R&D. Only on that will I emphasize and give you some data so that you have the confidence that this country and the money that it earns out of taxation, that's my job, so I will tell you that. My job, it is for generating revenue, but not troubling people, I'll assure you that. But even with that, that money comes because we also need to fund research. Anyone who disagrees? Do we need to fund research or not? Very muted. Dr. Govardhan Das. What's going on? What's going on? No money for research? More money for research. I'm happy I'm hearing that voice. More money for research. We need more money for research. And I'll just give you a few things about research in India. We've climbed up to 9th rank in the Nature Index 2023, which you just mentioned, Vice Chancellor. Countries with highest share of articles published in scientific journal is what is being measured when I say this. We've climbed up to the 9th position, overtaking Australia and Switzerland. India's share of high-quality research articles measured in terms of exact absolute numbers increased by 44% in the past 4 years. India retained the 40th position in Global Innovation Index, up from 81st in the year 2015. Progress is happening. Now, therefore, more money is required. We are taking numerous steps. I'll just list out a few. We recently approved the India AI, Artificial Intelligence Mission, with a budget outlay of 10,300 crores for building computing infrastructure, developing indigenous AI capabilities, attracting AI talent, and financing AI startups. The next one, the National Green Hydrogen Mission, launched in January 2023, has an outlay of 20,000 crores spread over 5 years, and that will make India a global hub for the production, usage, and export of green hydrogen and its derivatives, and enable India to be energy independent by 2047. The third one, India Semiconductor Mission, was launched in 2021 to build a vibrant semiconductor and display ecosystem to enable India's emergence as a global hub for electronics manufacturing and design. I said it was launched in 2021, and I'm glad you would have noticed. I'm sure you have noticed, but I'm glad that India has already set up 3 semiconductor units for assembly, testing, and packaging, which is what I think you guys know it better, ATP, they say, assembly, testing, and packaging of semiconductor chips. So we now have 3 large units set up in India, and we are taking a lead to support it They are being set up in Assam, they are being set up in Gujarat. There are more states coming forward to have semiconductor fab units. Okay? Space sector. Opening up of the sector for private participation was a major step forward taken in 2021. The establishment of in-space and sharing of ISRO facilities and the increased involvement of private enterprises have all created an enormous opportunity for the space economy. Today, satellite launches in India have a mini satellite or a medium-sized satellite also getting launched along with a ISRO-built satellite through or produced or assembled or put together by private small startups. So our launches are not just going with ISRO satellites, but they're going with ISRO satellites and with satellites produced by private sector. We are happily encouraging them. There are more countries today who think India does a very economical job of it and are seeking their satellites to be launched by us. So that is the kind of branding that the space research in India has acquired. Rapid rollout of the 5G, which has been the fastest in the world. There was a time when 5G was about to be launched. People said in India, we have a very poor 4G network. How do you think 5G is going to happen? Have you all heard that kind of voice? You haven't? Very lucky. I've heard it. And rapidity with which this government worked up. I know BSNL is still grappling with launching of 4G, but they will get over it. We've given them enough assistance and support. They will come over and soon be taking up 5G. But the 5G that India launched, I want this to be recognized by students coming out of science schools. The 5G that India has brought in is completely indigenous. We have not borrowed the technology from elsewhere. It's done by people like you all. I think it's a big thing for India at a time when everybody was saying we need to have 5G coming, we need at least some parts of it being, technology-wise borrowed from somewhere else. We did not. And it is completely indigenous, and I'm very happy to say not only was it indigenous, but it has been launched at such a scale and speed that today any part of the country has 5G connectivity. In this year's interim budget, much before the July budget, in the interim budget, we announced the establishment of an Anusandhan Kosh, a corpus of 1 lakh crore to provide long-term financing to support research and innovation in sunrise domains. My earlier 10,000 didn't get heard. 20,000 didn't get heard. My God, 1 lakh each time for a clap, imagine. So Anusandhan Corpus will provide long-term financing to support research and innovation in sunrise domains, which will create new avenues for India's tech-savvy youth like you, who are making India a global hub for innovation. We've also strengthened deep tech technologies, which are going to help the defense sector to become Atmanirbhar. Innovation, research and development, if only you had the time to listen to the budget speech of July 2024. We had 11 pillars through which we said, these are the routes through which we'll support, make legislations, fund, and take forward every step in order that we reach 2047 as developed country. And in the 11, one of them is innovation, research, and development as one of our priorities. So if we had 9 priorities, this is one of it. So the government has not forgotten its responsibility. Its responsibility and duty to be supportive of innovation, research, and development. So we expect that technology-led prosperous India is possible only with this kind of a support for research and innovation. So intelligence, ideas, and innovation will have to all work together. I know you've had a fantastic morning getting your degrees. You would want to now go and joyfully enjoy with your friends. I don't want to take more of your time, but just highlighting something. Earlier days, I'm sorry, I'm straying a bit. Earlier days, in my days in college, convocation address used to be not talking about what the government has done or what the government is not likely to do or is likely to do. It used to be more like a very worthy, noteworthy elderly citizen would be called, and he would tell some good words for us to keep in our mind, remember all through our lives. I'm not sure if I'm in that category yet, but I'd certainly take this opportunity to tell you all something which has remained in my mind, which elders in my house had told me. Because in India we have this culture of reading books, of course. Reading books which your teachers give is one thing, reading books of your choice is another, reading books which your friends read is one another, and reading also some things which others tell you is a very important thing. But there are also times when people tell you things which remain in your mind. I don't know how many of you, of course all of us do read a lot of Indian literature, but India is also a place where we read things from different parts of the world. And I'm sure in your schools and colleges you would have had some time to read Shakespeare. Has any one of you all read Shakespeare? Anything at all from Shakespeare? Not the entire play? Some bits? All right. So today, of course, every time I talk of Shakespeare, I also remember, in India, there's a habit that you'll compare with our own great poets saying, oh, he's the Shakespeare of India or Shakespeare of East. No such comparisons can be made. I'm standing in the land which is known for Ujjain, and Ujjain is the place which has given us Mahakavi Kalidas. And I shall not compare him with anybody else in the world. His scholarship and his language is beautiful. Because in my college, my second language was Sanskrit. I've done Kalidasa, bits of Kumara Sambhava, and therefore the kind of beauty that language he can bring in his writing is incomparable. So I'm not going back to comparing Indian writers with others. But today I've chosen to tell you something about Shakespeare. And about, if you ask me about Shakespeare, I would say from A to Z of one play, if I've read, it is Julius Caesar. But I'm not talking about Julius Caesar. I'm talking about Hamlet. And I shall not speak about Hamlet as a whole. But in Hamlet, in Act 1, Scene 3, there is a character, Polonius. And that character is not a great character because he conspires to act against Hamlet. He works with a villain. He's not otherwise a very pleasant character. But Shakespeare puts something wonderful in the mouth of Polonius to utter. And when Polonius utters, he utters such words addressing his son. To his son he says, oh, now you're going, my son, my dear son, you're going abroad to study. The son is going to France to study. And he says, look, there are some precepts which I will want to give you. Remember those. And the son very dutifully listens to him. I would think Polonius's words, Shakespeare's words coming out of Polonius, are such a relevant set of precepts which all of us, not just because you're students or I'm standing here, even for me, even for every one of us, they are only 8, but they are words for us to remember. Some of them have become aphorisms, but I will just tell the 8 and end my talk there. But they are so good that each of us will benefit for ourselves if we keep them in our mind whenever, wherever. The first thing he says is, hold on to your old friends. Don't let them go. You should be keeping your friendship with those friends you already have. But be slow to embrace new ones. Don't rush to get new friends. Keep your old friends and slowly build your new friends. Don't rush to become friendly with new people. Take your time. Second, he says, be slow to quarrel. But when you fight, be bold, that if the need arises, be bold to fight. But don't start a quarrel. Be slow for a quarrel. Gently, softly, if at all you have to, okay, quarrel. But if you end up having to fight, give a good fight. The third one, he says, listen more and talk less. I would say this has got to be said in every street corner of this country. Too much talk. But look at my temerity. I've got the mic, I have the captive audience, and I'm talking, but I'm still saying too much talk. But you know what I mean. I think all of us should learn to listen more and talk less. It will help you. And in this, because I'm working with a leader, please pardon me, I take this opportunity to say, PM Modi's one brilliant quality is this. He doesn't talk. When he calls us for a meeting, all of us sit, each of us throw our own ideas, we speak, we say, we contradict one another. He doesn't say anything, he just goes on listening. And that's what gives the leader the strength of so many inputs coming. And he takes a call finally. But that patience to listen to people, not interrupt them, not put your ideas across much before you hear others speaking. In our traditional systems, in Mahabharata, for instance, there is a practice which the Panchapandavas followed. The eldest, Dharmaputra, would never say his view first. When there was a need for the brothers to discuss, he would ask the youngest first, and the next one then, and then the slightly older, and so on. The eldest fellow would give his opinion only later and possibly the last, if at all he has to. So the confidence with which a younger one is made to speak before an elder is only to tell him, don't worry, whatever be your idea, I will hear it with open mind. Otherwise, a young person will always say, okay, the senior baat bata diya, main bolne mein se gade jaise niklunga, isliye I won't open up. No. So there are factors with which virtues are built, and this virtue, that you listen more, talk less, is of great value. That's what Polonius tells his son. So I've done 3. The fourth is, dress well, but don't dress gaudily. In fact, Polonius would say, you're going to France, and France, people dress themselves so well, they're masters in it. But you dress yourself well, but don't be gaudy. And I think that is something which we all should remember. There is a place to wear certain type of clothes. You don't go dressed up as though you're going for a wedding, even for a normal ceremony. So things like that. Remember that you are expected to dress, but do dress, don't go shabbily. Fifth is very important, I would think. You refrain from borrowing, neither should you lend. It's a wonderful thing that if you can make sure that you don't ever get into money within friends or within relatives, don't lend money, and if the money is not returned to you, don't feel sad, and when you ask, the person feels very oppressed, and then get into losing the friendship. So neither a lender nor a borrower be, is what he would say. Then the sixth, very important, all of us in this country are very touchy. I take this occasion to say this, Shakespeare's word through Polonius, very important for all of us to know. Take censure, meaning if somebody censures you, criticizes you, take it. but reserve your judgment for yourself. Immediately don't say, hey, how do you think you're going to criticize me? I am right, I know this. Don't. Take censure, but keep your judgment to yourself. It helps you to mature as a very rounded individual, and you don't pick up petty quarrels. It helps you that way. Then, even better one but the last. Your habits should be affordable for your purse. What money you have, within that, learn to live. Very critical. I know of flamboyance coming into our young people much before they start earning. I don't want to comment on your parents, but you as an individual should know that you should live within your means. The more you start living out of your purse, you get into trouble. This is what Polonius says, even as he sends his son to go to France to learn. And the last one, I think it's the best and the most important one. Be true to yourself above all. To yourself be honest. To yourself be truthful. If you're not truthful to yourself, what can you contribute to the society? So, without emphasizing on any of these 8 points, I want to leave this thought of Shakespeare's Polonius's words to his son, because in today's India, it is important for all of us to live and live with values. Our parents, our teachers, our institution, our culture, all of us, all of this has emphasized on our value system, and that's why we as Indians stand out in many other ways. It is important to keep our values up. Please don't sell your soul for a few pennies. Be honest. Be upright. You're respected for it wherever you go, at whatever age you may be. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
Madam, we thank you for such an inspiring address to our graduating batch and to all of us. I request you all to rise for the national anthem and remain standing until the ceremony is declared closed and the procession leaves the hall. I now request the Chairperson Board of Governors to declare the convocation closed.